What's going on, Soul Nation, and welcome to another No Rest for the Wicked video. In this video, we're going to talk about something that Thomas has been asking the community over on the Discord. So if you're looking for like the biggest news of all, this is a probably total skip video, let's be real. But there's a real interesting discussion being had, and honestly, if you're game with hanging out with this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, because as we've seen with God of War Ragnarok and with another game like Helldivers 2, obviously we're seeing some pushback from PC players about creating a Sony account, and this wouldn't be a Sony account, this would be a Moon account. So Thomas goes in to talk about his thoughts behind it, the pros, the cons, as well as hopefully alleviating some fears, and we're going to cover all of that here for you in this video. Before we do though, Kirk asked if I promote the idea of essential body pillow in the next video. We can call it even. So there you go, Kirk. Thank you so much for that. Hopefully it's a little fun. And always we want to keep talking about this, especially as it comes to the next update when it might be. Jack is saying that he's starting to see Thomas talk more about it. And yes, we're getting more conversation. I'm like you, just waiting and jumping at the bit for some really beefy information. And that is still a little whiles away. But the fact they're talking to us more is exciting and more important. But as they cover this game, as they give us news and information to break down, as interviews and more roll out, I'm going to be sure to covering it. If you guys feel like sticking around, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It is around here somewhere on the page. And if you find it sound off just like these incredible people, welcome in, guys. Glad to have you here. All right, let's get to why you started with the video in the first place, if you're deciding to stick with it, namely because of the subject matter. All right, Thomas writes, for the multiplayer update, we're discussing how we want to go about account creation. Right now, since Wicked was launched with just single player, players didn't have to create a Moon Studios account in order to play. But given that multiplayer will be coming now, we'll want players to create an account so that they can play from any device in the future to have access on all their stuff anywhere. And what's important about this, for those of you who saw the last video, he has double confirmed crossplay, cross save, and that cross save, aka cross progression, is such a value, especially to me as a gamer. That means I can play on all devices. Thomas goes on to double confirm Switch 2 is coming, and No Rest for the Wicked will be coming to the Switch 2. But he continues in this original post, what's the feel on this? Would anyone here cry bloody murder if we forced you to create an account with the next update in order for you to play? The alternative is that we will let you play with just your platform account, but then every time that you're going to use some feature that requires multiplayer, we're going to need to plop that account creation screen right in your face, and you're going to have to deal with that in some weird stuff as a player if you create an account after the fact, since you'd have local save data and online save data, and you'd now be merging these two. The nice thing is about Moon Studio accounts is that players will be able to log in on their Moon account from any device, that you just have to continue to play exactly where you left off on the other devices, and it just makes all the multiplayer stuff simple and straightforward, since we already know which accounts we're playing. I think a lot of the normies might just not realize that there is a difference between a Moon account and a Steam account, and then that will get frustrated if they try to play on some other device and have none of their data there. Some might even have a heart attack, which hopefully he's joking, of course he is, but yeah, it's still an aspect that I see a lot of people push back on. Mars comments, he says, personally, I'm fine with it. Could they just limit it to ask if, when people play multiplayer? I don't have a Moon account, but I'd make one. Thomas says, it's really not that easy, since now that we'd have to design a whole bunch of UI that flows for the edge cases, and someone is not playing with the Moon account. He goes on, because one of his big worries is that the game is advertised with crossplay, cross save, and I'm playing on my Switch. Where is all my data? Why is it not there? Especially if you haven't created that account, because it is still locally isolated. Alex says, hello, the risks of scaring away of new players? No. Being forced to create an account just to test the game? Maybe. And Thomas says, correct. That is the annoying one-time setup issue. So yes, it would be annoying one time though. I'd love to hear your thoughts. He goes on to say, it just creates a lot of comfort in the long run, since we can manage everything ourselves without players having to link platform accounts together, and all the stuff just being able to just play together. And again, like I said, he goes on to confirm that it is coming to Switch 2. It's just going to be an annoying one step. In the long run, I think it makes everyone more comfortable and in almost a magical way, because you get to play anywhere and you know all your stuff is safe. You could log in and your friends and you can continue your game, or if you just bought a Switch 2, you log in and boom, you can just keep playing exactly where you left off of Steam without even thinking about this. And then obviously, you know, like, I'm not going to name the video this, but it's like, oh my gosh, is Thomas confirming No Rest for the Wicked Switch 2 launch game? You know, you just got a Switch 2 and No Rest is there. Obviously, I think we still got a little bit of time and we don't know when the Switch 2 might potentially be coming, but it is exciting nonetheless. The reason I wanted to make sure I covered all that is because Thomas today came in and he is updating us on basically this whole conversation, because people have such strong opinions about it. So he starts, folks, I just tried to take the temperature on how people feel about account creation. So let's chill. We're not some big corporation that profits from selling any of the data to third parties. That's crazy talk. It was basically just asking how people would feel if we require them to create an account once, so that we don't have to create edge cases for the UI and stuff everywhere, and that account for players who have an account and players who don't have an account, and then we have to deal with the potential conflicts. I just always want this stuff to be as simple and comfortable for the user as humanly possible. But I obviously get that privacy is a big concern these days. I just, for example, liked how Genshin Impact was handling this. I installed my game on PC and then I did it for research for a bit and then looked at the mobile experience, and when I logged in on mobile, I could immediately continue where I left off on PC, which was super nice. From the start of Wicked, I always thought it would be awesome if I could play on Steam, and then when I'm at my house where I have my Switch, that I'd like to be able to pick it up in my device and keep playing exactly where I left things off and never have to worry about save states and such. I'm not the expert on this at Moon, but as far as I know, this only works this way if people handle this through our Moon accounts. And since this is going to be a new thing as a part of multiplayer updates, I just wanted to see how people would react to suddenly being in an account creation screen when they first boot up the game. That's really all. And so from my perspective, just to kind of weigh in from a developer, and I don't know if they'll go about this direction, I honestly would say, yeah, like having an account, cool. Have it happen automatically behind the scenes, right? Like, to create an account, you're already logged in Steam, you're already authenticated. You could actually start that account creation process through that Steam and basically just say, yep, that is what it is. And then when the user needs, they could go and finish off that account creation, aka they would have to either go log in another device and say, hey, log in with Steam, or your Moon email, and then be like, hey, what do I do? It's like, okay, you can go out to Moon or through the thing and say, hey, put in this email, put in this password, and call it a day. You know, that'd be cool. And honestly, it'd be even cooler if it was able to authenticate and take your Steam and do your password. But I think there's security concerns with that. So from a networking and a programmer myself, I'd be like, I'd be kind of hesitant on that. But that's where, from authentication versus password sharing, that would be an interesting thing. The least amount of steps, I think, is ideal. But if we're going to talk about it in terms of ripping off the Band-Aid, well, might as well do it now, especially while the population's a little bit on the lower end, because the game isn't still fully out. And then it becomes that expectation for anybody who's coming back or is starting the game out at the first time. It's like, hey guys, slight annoyance. You got your, you logged into the game and you are being asked a couple of questions about your Moon account. And as long as they make that streamlined and easy to use and kind of that one-time annoyance, then I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal. The worst thing they could do is release the game and eventually do the other thing. Or, like you said, creating special UI and edge case scenarios where somebody does not have a Moon account, they are playing locally, and how do you manage some of these features, especially when it's like, yeah, multiplayer and who knows what else they're going to have planned beyond that. One other little bit of a fun bit of tease kind of here is Thomas does want to introduce a library into Sacrament, and this is kind of where they're thinking about the compendulum, in which that you kind of fill this out and maybe have it to where you get a specific rune ability that you use on enemies to analyze various things, very Pokedex in its nature. Obviously, this doesn't mean that I think we're getting Pokemon in it, but the note that I had when I read this, I was like, the first thought, I was like, careful not to get sued now. Like, Thomas and I talked about this in the interview, and you know, it's like, yep, it's all about trying to iterate off of really cool ideas. And Nintendo, if you guys haven't been following the news, going in and making some very questionable patent decisions and trying to implement them. We'll have to see how that plays out in the long run. And now we've reached the end of the video, and that brings us to our final segment, the message of hope. I got this beautiful message from Yehoram, who writes, "Hey man, I'm a new father battling with myself and watching your content. And the message is at the end, just help me keep myself and keep my head up and fighting for my family. Love the content, and I love your controversial, quote unquote, comment that impugns on the gaming industry and just the whole world industry as well. Keep up the good work and much love." Thank you so much. So congrats, Yoram, on being a new father. I don't know if this is going to be helpful for anybody outside of just my own perspective, but we're going to see. I'm going to trust that there's something of value that I'm going to share with you guys today as a part of this journey, because I don't know whether you're maybe considering about becoming a dad, you never want to be a father, you're a new father, or you're a seasoned pro like myself. Having 6 kids has been the privilege of a lifetime. Julie and I, my wife, we weren't able to actually have kids, and it was a whole process. We had to have surgery. She had a brain tumor that was preventing it, which is crazy to think, right? And so I've lived in the life of grieving that I wouldn't be a father, to now having my hands filled with kids. Anybody who knows, who's ever been a caretaker or dealt with young kids, knows there's going to be challenges, right? But you got to remember, especially in those tough times, this is actually just a temporary thing. Like if you think about your entire life, right? Let's say you're lucky you live 60, 80, 100 years, right? How many of those years are you spent kind of in this, lifespan? I don't go to movies, I don't go to bars, right? Like there are some sacrifices that you make, but those aren't a permanent, sacrifice you make, because at some point, that child of yours is going to go out into the world and do their thing. And that in and of itself, having kind of that generational mindset as well is something that kind of, even when you're up in the middle of the night, which we were, especially this weekend, a lot of kids were sick, wife was sick. I ended up eventually getting sick, but the good news was we were able to have it staggered throughout the whole house so that it wasn't horribly, it could have been a lot worse if we were all sick at the same time. But thankfully, we were able to pull through as a team. Those are hard moments, and they're gonna be hard moments. And one of the things that we can do, and this is just why I think focusing in on our mental health and encouraging each other to be the men that we know to be. And hello to the ladies. I always want to say hi to y'all. Welcome in. But yeah, for the men out there who I feel like I can more closely relate to in this situation, there is a way of like training and preparation, right? Like, why do I want you to take good care of your mental health and your physical health and getting enough sleep and the food that you eat? These things are all critical. And they're more critical, especially when you do step into that fatherhood role. Because I could tell you this, and this wasn't like me feeling like I'm gonna go and be dangerous and get hurt, through like crazy activities. But I tell you, the day I became a father was the day I was like, oh, I need to make sure I get my act together. I need to make sure I focus in on surviving, not for my own sake, but who's gonna take care of this little one? And that in and of itself is game changing. And so a part of that is, hopefully if you guys are new to the game or you're thinking about getting in the game, there's going to be some changes in your life, and that actually is better for you. Life is better, especially when there's limitations. And that sounds probably ridiculous to some people out there. Like, oh, I want to do what I want when I want to do it. Like at some point that in and of itself becomes so boring and so, just tasteless, that you end up just missing out. And that's where I think I see a lot, especially in the culture today, especially around content creators who completely sacrifice having a family because they want to chase internet fame. And that is a concern that I have, obviously, for the kids. It's one of the reasons why I like doing what I like to do. I like to treat this as a hobby because it's both a healthier balance. It gives me the ability to be as honest with you guys as I humanly can be, because even if I offend you, or even if you're like, this video is too long, Brian, or whatever, that's great. Have your opinion. Choose to engage or not engage with the content I make. you're free to do that. And I'm free to do the thing that I want to do. And there's a beautiful thing in that. But a lot of that ties into, what if my kids want to get into this? What if they want to become content creators? What are the pitfalls? What are the things that I see that are concerning factors? And ultimately, my advice is, there's nothing wrong with doing content creation. Just don't make it your be all end all. And in order, to do it, if you wanted to be a streamer, for example, you got to put in endless amounts of time. And any of the new dads and the, veteran dads know that it doesn't become a part of the reality. And I see, and I'm always worried about people being bitter towards that, because it's a joyful thing. Having a child isn't a guarantee. It isn't a right, but it is an immense blessing, and a gift that God gives people who do not want children is they'll never know what they missed out on. And that is, I think, a beautiful thing that he gives, because I could not imagine my life another way. So how do we rough it out during these times? That's why, while we treat these as little mini virtual men's groups, like having a group of men in your corner, I would, obviously relate men's groups with church, but I don't care if you go to church or not. Like, I ultimately want you to figure it out for yourself. But a men's group, hands down, can help, because having and hearing that you're not alone, which is true, like we're all up changing that diaper in the middle of the night. We're all saying no to these, endless gaming sessions that maybe we used to have. There's a greater cause for that. Like, and sometimes it's difficult to see the forest through the trees, and just to be reminded that, yeah, you're not going to be up at, for the rest of your life changing diapers. There's going to be plenty of time for hobbies and the things that you're interested in. But the thing is that those are going to get even sweeter, especially when you get to have your kids experience them alongside you. Now, I've got my oldest being 10. We're now starting to get into the Lord of the Rings and all these different things. And it's so fun to watch my kids experience things for the first time, because it does give me that same feeling. It reminds me of when I got to experience that for the first time. And in a way, it's actually sweeter now, even though I know how the story unfolds. And it's hard to explain that. But note that that's also part of your future, whether you're struggling right now with infertility. I've been there. Whether you're struggling with sleepless nights. You maybe have a colicky kid and, they're just untenable. You got this, and you can do this. Just also, create a plan for success, right? Like, find out, like, especially if you know that, you've been getting up in the middle of the night. Yeah, maybe you turn off the screens a little bit early. Maybe you make sure that you're not having as much caffeine in the evening, so that you can get some rest, because the world needs you, especially that little one or little ones. They need you. They need you to show up, and you will show up, because that's who you are. So good luck out there, fellow dads, and I wish you all the best of luck. If anybody needs advice, like the tip I give every new dad is, put a diaper under the diaper before you change the diaper. That backup diaper ready to rock and roll will save you so much laundry and frustration. Anyway, guys, God bless you all. Thank you so much for hanging out, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. But until then, take care.